Simon was upset because of not being able to celebrate Halloween with the rest of his friends. He had planned on sneaking out to go trick-or-treating with them, but he decided not to because if his dad caught him, he would be furious. Simon's dad, Jack, was the local sheriff, and he banned Simon from celebrating Halloween because last Halloween his wife Elizabeth burned in a fire in the local town hall. There was a Halloween party going on there at the time. Simon's dad was giving him his usual speech. You are not going to go trick-or-treating, you're not going to be watching scary movies, and you are not going to be reading any scary stories. Do you understand? Halloween is banned from this house. Now I am going to have to go out on patrol, and unfortunately the local idiots make this the busiest night of the year, so don't give Sammy any trouble while she's babysitting you. Simon agreed, and Jack went outside to his car to start what would be a busy night ahead. Sammy looked at Simon and said, "Geez, I thought my dad was strict." Simon said, "You have no idea how strict he is." Sammy felt sorry for Simon not being able to celebrate Halloween and go trick-or-treating with his friends. So she said, "Look, if you want you can watch a horror movie that I'm watching at 9. At least you can get into the Halloween spirit by watching a scary movie." Simon said, "No thanks," and he walked up to his room. He opened a notebook and started writing a scary story. Jack was driving along the road when he pulled on the brakes. He couldn't believe his eyes. He nearly ran over some idiot in a Halloween outfit, but he knew something was wrong. He couldn't put his finger on it right away until it suddenly clicked. When it hit him, what person would be almost 10 foot tall wearing a Halloween outfit? Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Jack backed right away and drove down the street, not sure of what he saw, but he knew that it was moving and was alive, but couldn't believe anything that size could be human. He then thought to himself, could it be some teenagers playing a trick on him, using a few of them up on a ladder inside some outfit? He changed his mind from that idea when he froze in shock seeing trick-or-treaters run screaming from what looked like giant zombies chasing them. The place was like out of some zombie movie. When it finally hit him, he drove straight home, and when he got into his house he said to Sammy, "Where is Simon? Where is he?" She said, "He is up in his room. Why? He didn't move from his room all night." A few seconds later, Jack entered his bedroom, and sure enough, Simon was writing. Jack shouted, "Stop writing!" Sammy was standing by the door now also, wondering what was happening. Jack explained, "Simon, your mom didn't die by accident in that fire. What I mean is, it wasn't just a random accident. Your mom had some curse. I'm not sure how she got it, but her mom before her had it also. For some reason, what they write as a story happens in real life. You needed a Halloween story for school, and your mom wrote one for you. She was drunk because I admit I was giving her a hard time, but she thought she was doing a great thing writing you that story. It was even after Halloween because she would have wrote it on Halloween, but she didn't have a clue she was so drunk. Anyway, she would not have dreamt of writing in that diary when she knew it was cursed and when she knew everything would happen in real life. But she was drunk. She hadn't a clue what she was doing. But I want you to know, Simon, this wasn't your fault. None of it was your fault. But please do not ever write in that diary again. All I know is that that notebook is evil. She went there that night to save people. She saved everyone's life but her own. She burnt in that fire, telling everyone there would be a fire. She waited there until everyone was out. but only on a Halloween night in a certain notebook. What did you write? Whatever you wrote will happen in real life. It's a curse, especially on Halloween. Suddenly Jack burst into flames. Simon and Sammy screamed. None of the room caught on fire, but his dad was lying burnt to a cinder on his bedroom floor. Simon wished he never ever wrote a Halloween story. Thanks for watching the Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Me and my husband were so happy to be moving to a new town, away from all the nosy neighbours and drama of our old town. I found out about this town on a website, and luckily my husband loved it also. The move started off great. The first day we arrived, within an hour, my neighbour, who seemed to be a really cool, friendly girl, called over and invited me and my husband to their Halloween party they were having that night. I remember joking, telling my husband, wouldn't it be bad luck moving into a new house on Halloween night? But thankfully everything was going great. That night we decided to go into the local mall and choose outfits for the party. An hour later, when we arrived at the party, it was in full swing. I felt so happy that we got this opportunity to make new friends in such a great way. I had a feeling that this was going to be a great decision. Moving to this town felt so right. I was wandering around the house, deciding to let myself go, but as I walked down the hall, it seemed very quiet compared to the rest of the house. I heard some talking, and I know I didn't want to be an eavesdropper, but I tried to listen outside the door, but the voices sound muffled. As I peeped in through the gap in the door, I could feel my heart thumping in my chest as I could see the girl who invited me and my husband kissing. Then I nearly collapsed as I saw down on the ground a dead body with blood all over it. I slowly stepped back, but could hear clearly now. My husband said to the girl, "Don't worry, it was a brilliant idea, you emailing her that site address to look at, to choose this town, and trust me, I enjoyed encouraging her a lot to choose it too." The girl said, "But how are you going to get her to join us and become a vampire?" My husband said, "Trust me, did I ever let you down?" I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I couldn't register what was happening. It all seemed so crazy. I knew I had to get out of the house, but as I turned, all I could see was a man smiling at me with blood rolling out of his mouth. A black cat arrived at Brian's house one day in October. They named him Stray because he just strayed in off the street. Brian initially liked the cat, but the more days went on, he found it very strange. Brian had been convinced that the black cat was his dead sister, who was killed in a fire a few days ago. His parents, no surprise, told him to stop letting his imagination run wild with him. There were different occurrences happened. First, he knew that his sister Susan hated him playing music loud, and one day when he had his radio loud, the black cat walked up and put it off. The next strange thing that happened was when he walked into her room, the black cat was sitting next to her diary, as if the cat was reading it. Brian was watching a movie on Halloween night, and they had candles around the room for decoration, with pumpkins, etc. Suddenly the cat went mad and jumped, knocking all the candles, which caused a fire in the room. Within seconds the room caught fire, and by the time the fire brigade came, the room was gutted. Nobody was injured, but Brian was wondering, was the cat Susan letting them know that she perished in the fire? His parents still didn't believe him until something so horrifying happened that his parents went into shock while he rang the police. The black cat was standing in front of a girl, and the girl was Brian's dead sister. He thought he was seeing a ghost until his sister spoke to him. "Brian, I am not your sister, nor I never was. Your parents kept me prisoner in this house for years without anyone knowing I was here. Did you not think it strange I was never allowed to leave my room? I know you're only 8, but come on, surely you found it strange." Brian's parents hadn't realised. He rang 911, and they jumped out of their shock when the police stormed the room. After a lot of talking with the police and investigating, it came out that my sister was in fact kept prisoner in my house since she was 3, and the girl whose body was found in my house was a girl whose mum was a witch who cast a spell on my parents to burn, but her spell didn't work until when they were being driven away in the police car, the car lost control and drove right into a wall, blowing up. I wondered why her mom didn't just call the police about her daughter until I had realised her mom had been dead for over 8 years. When she was walking her daughter one day, as a toddler going to pet a black cat, she ran across the street and a car would have hit her, only for her mom running out and pushing her out of the way, which killed her instead. Her other daughter was that girl's twin sister, Susan. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Jerry was 8 years old when he was in class one day, as usual drawing his favourite types of cartoons. They always were horror cartoons. They were drawings of witches and monsters, even when it wasn't Halloween. He fit right in when it was Halloween, because the other kids were interested in the spooky stuff then. But he didn't forget the times they laughed at him. He promised himself he would have the last laugh. It was Halloween night 15 years later, and there was a school reunion. Jerry couldn't believe his luck, the school reunion falling on a Halloween night. Jerry was on his own most of the night during the party, apart from some classmates walking up to him and saying hi, probably feeling guilty for how they treated him in school. Everyone was enjoying themselves and were dressed in different Halloween costumes. He had to admit to himself he was rather pleased to be at a Halloween party because he was never asked to any party as a kid. When the party was over and they were outside of the school was when Jerry shot them, saying to himself, "You were laughing at my crayon drawings. Now I'll be laughing at your chalk outlines." The next morning, Jerry smiled, looking at the crime scene tape and chalk outlines of where he shot them dead. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Sheriff Dave Watson was tired of the same group of teenagers wreaking havoc on Halloween night. He was proud of keeping the law and order in his town, and he wasn't going to let those pesky kids ruin his good reputation. Last Halloween he moved them on, but they just moved to another place, and he had to move them 3 times before they finally called it a night. And at that it was then about 3 or 4 in the morning. He was parked in a spot just over from the farmhouse where they were having their Halloween party. He had a good vantage point, so he got out of his car and looked through binoculars to see what they were doing. They were drinking and smoking weed, getting high as usual. He had something very special planned for them this Halloween, and that something would knock them out for the whole night, so he could get some peace and quiet for Halloween. He waited until the whole crew were in the farmhouse before he locked the door and pumped the whole house with sleeping gas. He had tried it out on various scumbags around his town, and it worked a charm. About an hour later he was pumping the house with the gas, and they didn't even notice as the gas was invisible. Within minutes they went from dancing to falling sound asleep. When the sheriff drove off smiling, the door of the farmhouse opened. Suddenly a great fog came across the shed and mixed with the gas, carrying it through the town. Within minutes, trick-or-treaters who were enjoying Halloween suddenly started to fall asleep right in the street or footpath. Dave passed one couple who were lying down on the ground, saying to himself they drank too much, not knowing it was the gas being carried by the fog. Suddenly Dave noticed it getting very foggy, so foggy he could barely see. Then suddenly he felt drowsy and fell asleep at the wheel as the police car veered off a cliff, falling hundreds of feet below and blowing up, with Dave burning inside. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. It was Halloween night and everyone was having so much fun. Tony and his kids started the day early, shopping for Halloween, and really enjoyed it, since it was his favourite time of the year. He then went trick-or-treating with his kids, and it reminded him of his own childhood and the excitement and fun of trick-or-treating. They ended the night in his grandfather's house. His grandfather was throwing a Halloween party, and most of the family were there. They were in the hallway of a huge house he inherited from his father, and he was telling a ghost story. He said, "The vase here next to me was passed down from generation to generation, and it contains the ashes of a pirate who was our great-great-great-grandfather. Legend has it that if this vase is broken by any of our generation, then it will bring bad luck to anyone involved with that person." Tony laughed and he said, "We are all here tonight, so that would mean we would be all doomed." Later that night, Tony's eldest son walked into the living room and said, "Hey, I am not being smart, and I didn't do it on purpose. As a matter of fact, I didn't do it at all, and I'm not getting the blame. But remember that story about if any of our generation broke the vase, it will bring us bad luck? Well, our youngest of our generation just knocked it over and broke it by accident." Simon, who was only 6, had a scared look on his face. He didn't even see the vase. He didn't even hear the ghost story until his older brother told him about it. Tony's grandfather went crazy, but tried to calm down after a while. That night when they finally got to sleep, Simon had a nightmare, and he told Tony that he dreamt of the pirate. He dreamt he saw him at the bottom of his bed. Tony said don't listen to his great-grandfather's silly ghost stories. They're not real. As Tony turned around, he froze in horror when he saw floating in the air a pirate. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content.